next. We've got the Treasurer to his feet in the House of Reps. Let's have a listen in there. Ross Greenwood, thanks. Let's hear Jim Chalmers now.
West of Sydney, can I acknowledge the economics students from William Carey Christian School as well, in the electorate of the very fine member for Werriwa up the back as well. Mr Speaker, as honourable members would now be aware, the Reserve Bank has just announced its decision to increase interest rates by another 0.25%, bringing the cash rate to 3.6%. This will make life harder for many Australians who are already under the pump. This was expected, it was flagged, the markets anticipated it, but it will still sting. These interest rate rises, which began before the election, the cumulative impact of those rate rises for every $500,000 owed is now about $1,000 a month. That's the cumulative impact of these rate rises which began before the election. Last week's national accounts showed that Australian households spent about $20 billion in mortgage interest payments in the December quarter, compared to about $11 billion in the same period a year earlier. As I said, the worst quarter for inflation was the March quarter last year, before government changed hands, and that's when rates started rising. The Reserve Bank takes its decisions independently, and that independence is an important feature of our system. The government's job is to take responsibility for those things that we have an influence over. Australians understand that a lot of this inflation is coming at us from around the world, and they understand that broken supply chains here in Australia have been part of the problem as well. And so we take responsibility for working through this inflation issue in a responsible and a methodical way to address inflation in the ways that we can. And our three-point strategy is all about, as we've said before, cost of living relief, repair of supply chains and restraint in the budget. Now, as the Reserve Bank Governor's statement says today and makes clear, we do expect that inflation has peaked, but it will be higher than we'd like for longer than we'd like. That's why our cost of living relief is targeted and responsible, so that we make life a little bit easier for people but don't add to inflation. Making early childhood education cheaper, making medicines cheaper, building more affordable housing, providing help with energy bills and getting wages moving again. Now, Mr Speaker, when Australians are doing it tough, and there is $1 trillion in Liberal Party debt left to Australian taxpayers, our highest priority is cost of living relief in a more responsible budget. When Australians are under the pump and interest rates are rising, the highest priority of those opposite is borrowing more so that ordinary people can subsidise bigger tax breaks for people who already have tens of millions of dollars in super.